So now we're going to be doing comprehension. And the first thing we would like to do is look at all the questions before we have a look at the passage. That way we know an idea of the scope of where we'll be tackling. So from the first paragraph, pick out a 4-word phrase that suggests that the narrator's presence in the backyard was acceptable to Fluff. It's a 1-mark question, which is common for when they ask you about a phrase or a word. We need to know straight away that it is 4-word. Okay, so we're actively looking for 4-word phrases. And it's in the first paragraph. In paragraph 2, state 2 examples of acts of intimidation by Fluff. So Fluff is the one who carried out these acts of intimidation, meaning threatening acts that cause a little bit of fear, a little bit of anxiety done by Fluff. And for 71, narrator would be the reader, or rather the writer of the text. We'll point him or her out later on and we go through the passage. From line 17 to 22, how did Fluff show that she continued to be anxious in the presence of people? So we're talking about Fluff and showing proof, or what in the passage describes her to continue to be anxious in front of other people. So we're looking for reasons. Why did she continue to be anxious? And take note over here, it says did, so it's past tense. So when you answer your question over here, it can't be present tense. You have to be consistent and use the same tense that was used in the question. 74, based on lines 23 to 28, what was the purpose behind Fluff's attack? So if you think about anyone attacking you, there's always a reason behind it. If they're violent or if they're doing an attack, we need to find out the reason. So that'd be the aim. Again, past tense. So we would say the aim was, or Fluff attacked so-and-so to blah, 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 and make sure that's past tense, okay? So next, 75. Based on the passage, state whether each statement in the table below is true or false, and give one reason why you think so. So just true or false here, and then give a reason. A, the narrator gave the hen the name Fluff based on her red mottled feathers. So saying that the author gave the hen the nickname or the name based on her attributes, her adjectives, how she looked. B, the narrator was excited about the hatching. Well, did that happen? Is it true or false? Let's find out in the passage. C, the tomcat struck Fluff before she could react. So these are very descriptive things that happen, that transpired through the passage. We need to find the correct section and then decide for ourselves. 76, look at the table below. What do the words in the left column refer to in the passage? Write your answer or answers in the column on the right. 77, based on the passage, state the corresponding cause and effect listed in the table below. So this is the effect, meaning the outcome or the result. We need to find out what caused it, what happened, which then led to this. And the two effects here that we're examining is Fluff's babbles were safe in the pen as the stallion hated cats. And this is the narrator found Fluff bleeding. 78, which two of the following words best describe Fluff? Do not tick more than 2 boxes. So you need to find out the best 2 adjectives and tick them based on the passage. 79, list 2 things that the narrator did to care for Fluff after being injured by the tomcat. You break it down into 1 and 2. 80, do you think that the narrator was attached to Fluff's chicks? Give a reason for your answer. Although it says here, do you think, which is present tense, we look at was attached for the tense of the question and answer. So we could say, I think the narrator was not attached to Fluff's chicks to answer with, and then give a reason. So it's also past tense when you answer this question. But you start with I think, but you maintain the tense of what's happening here. Was attached, not attached. Okay? Let's go to the passage and go through that together. It's useful to annotate so we know what's happening. I called the red mottled hen Fluff. I do not know where she came from or who owned her. One day, she just showed up in my barnyard and acted as though she owned the place. She would squawk, flap her wings, and peck at me if she did not like something I was doing. I would sprinkle grain for her, and she began to tolerate me because of it. So it's not like the pet, or rather the hen, is having to get used to its own home, but rather the narrator is very accommodating and just allowed the hen, Fluff, which is a female, allow her to just show up out of nowhere and just act as though the chicken or the hen owns the place, right? She would just exercise her sense of ownership and go around walking around as though it was her own home. And it wasn't that the narrator, the original and human owner of the home, that had to tolerate her, but rather she began to tolerate me. So this tells us that the author or the narrator is very accommodating as well. However, on the day I named her, she did not seem to have any toleration for me at all. I had gone into the barn to get grain for the horses when she flew at me, pecking and squawking. I shooed her away, yelling, "Get away, you psycho fluffball." That was how she got her name Fluff, which was short for Psycho Fluffball. It was a week after the attack that I learned the reason it had occurred. She was trying to chase every leaf or creature out of the barn, and that was when I heard some chirping sounds coming from a dark corner of the barn. Despite her acts of intimidation, curiosity got the better of me, and I inched closer to find the little fluffy bundles of about every imaginable color. Sadly, one day they just disappeared, but not without a trail of feathers. I knew the animal which had taken Fluff's chicks must have put up a fight because Fluff lost a lot of feathers. By the time Fluff once again in her protective mood, most of her feathers had grown back. I discovered another nest of eggs in the corner of the barn, and when I saw part of a beak poking out of one, I rushed home to get my family. Fluff was beginning to trust me, but other humans still made her nervous. However, she let us get within 5 feet before she squawked her warning. Within a few days, there was a brood of chicks for her to protect. So there's kind of like a motherly instinct, right? Then one day, as I was cleaning the stallion's stall in another barn, Fluff came squawking and pecking at my feet. I pushed her away with my foot. "Get away, Fluff!" She attacked again and then ran toward the other barn, flapping and squawking. I went back to my work, and she attacked me again, only to run back toward her barn, flapping, squawking, and turning in circles. I thought, "You want me to follow?" I took a step toward her, and she rushed to the other barn, stopping to look back at me. I took a few more steps, and she went a little further. Finally, I just followed her to the other barn. As I stepped into its dim interior, I realized it was very quiet. I spotted Fluff rushing at something by her nest. That was when I saw a giant wild tomcat sneaking toward the chicks. It had seen me and held still, but Fluff knew he was there. She attacked him, pecking and beating with her wings, but he was huge. Each swipe of his claws sent feathers flying. I was furious. I grabbed a nearby shovel and raced towards the cat. He saw me and ran for the door and into the nearby field. Fluff lay there bleeding, not moving. So the hen is really injured. And something that's useful to know is that the narrator in the text is kind of like an animal lover. Like, he was really kind to the hen at first. He was always very caring. We've never seen him be aggressive before, but yet the moment Fluff is threatened, he races to her protection. So there's a sense of ownership and a sense of nurturative care and love that the narrator has over Fluff. As I went closer, she tried to move to her babies, but her leg was broken. Afraid the cat would return, I got a box and put her in it. I found her babies in the nest where she had tried to conceal them. I moved them all to the stallion's barn and put them in one end of his pen. The only way in was through the door to his pen, and he hated cats. I knew they would be safe there. I got her a little pan of water and some grain. She clucked to me as if asking me to take care of her babies. "We'll get you better, Fluff, and you can take care of them yourself," I said. But the next morning, I was digging her grave by the barn she had defended as home. So that tells us that Fluff died of her injuries, probably, right? Because she was clucking and communicating to the narrator right before. Perfectly normal, although she just had a confrontation with the cat, where she was injured badly, bleeding, and not moving. But the next day, she passed away, right? The narrator realized I was crying over a chicken because of the way she had trusted me and given her life for her children. I became a mother hen to her little brood, which would often follow me around. I found them a home with a chicken farmer, except for one. I saved the feistiest mottled little red hen and made a permanent home for her in the stallion's pen. I named her Fluffy. So beautiful ending about motherhood, right? And we see how it ties in with the start because Fluff shows up and the narrator takes Fluff in. And at the end of the story, because Fluff sacrificed her life to protect her babies, Fluff dies, passes on, and the human narrator who took Fluff in is now taking care of Fluff's children. So have a little go at the questions, and in the next part, we'll be going through the answers. And after that, I'll be showing you where the answers are found in the passage so you can compare them. But I won't be showing you the annotations or the brackets or the parts where the answers are for each question, for example, yet. We'll be going through the answers, and at the last part, then you can go ahead and check the passage so that way you can see if your markings and your annotations are correct, okay? So let's start with question 71. Hope you've already attempted the questions. So from the first paragraph, pick out a forward phrase that suggests that the narrator's presence in the backyard was acceptable to Fluff. The answer is began to tolerate me. Remember how we said tolerate means can stand someone? So if you can't tolerate someone because of their differences, it means you can't stand them. You don't want them to act that way. You just want them to change. But over here, this forward phrase suggests that eventually the human narrator, which was like a new figure to Fluff, who's a hen, and Fluff also has never seen the narrator before, led over time for Fluff to start trusting and start tolerating the narrator. In paragraph 2, state 2 examples of acts of intimidation by Fluff. It would be how Fluff would fly at the narrator, peck and squawk, and chase every leaf or creature out of the barn. You just have to find the part in paragraph 2 where Fluff actually is described to be very aggressive, very territorial, because we want to see acts of intimidation. And recall that means being threatening and being really fierce, right? So just find evidence and instances where Fluff fits this description. And the part in paragraph 2 stating that Fluff would fly at the narrator. Peck and squawk, meaning use her beak and literally hit people. And squawk, like quack, 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 is intimidating. And also chase every leaf or creature out of the barn. So see how she's really territorial. This is my space, get out. That's the kind of disposition or vibe or energy we're getting from Fluff. So from question 73, from line 17 to 22, how did Fluff show that she continued to be anxious in the presence of people? It would be, excuse me, sorry. It would be, she would squawk her warning when someone got within 5 feet. This isn't so much that she's fierce, but in this case, she was a little bit anxious. She was a little bit nervous when someone got too close to her, right? 5 feet in line 17 to 22, which we'll mark out later on. And we know it's because of people and not because of other animals, because it says someone got close within 5 feet. Someone means people. So for number 73, the answer would be she would squawk, meaning make a sound, and she feels threatened. She would squawk her warning when someone got close or got within 5 feet. Got within 5 feet. So for PSLE, just check if you're allowed to do your numerics. Ask your school teacher. Sometimes they prefer you to write out 5 in full, okay? But this is just our learning, so we'll like relax that a little bit. 74, based on lines 23 to 28, what was the purpose or aim behind Fluff's attack? So Fluff basically wanted the narrator to follow her so she could better protect her chicks from the wild tomcat in the other barn. So when you look at the lines 23 to 28, you'll find that it's actually the part where they're under attack, or she's under attack by the wild cat. So she knows that she probably can't fend off the cat all by herself. You know, sometimes animals have a little bit of instinct and common sense. So she wanted to draw attention to the narrator, right? The big human that she knows, to get the big human or the narrator to follow her and help. Because ultimately, she's a mother and she wants to protect her chicks from the cat. So the answer would be Fluff wanted the narrator to follow it to protect its chicks or her chicks from the wild tomcat in the other barn. Make sure your answer is clear. And take note that to Fluff, who's a hen and also a mother, the tomcat seems really, really threatening, okay? 75, based on the passage, state whether each statement in the table below is true or false, then give one reason why you think so. A, the narrator gave the hen the name Fluff based on her red mottled feathers. It's false. Remember the part in the passage where we have the narrator talking about Psycho Fluffball? That's the reason why the narrator gave Fluff the name Fluff, because when Fluff attacked him, he called her Psycho Fluffball. So the answer is when Fluff attacked him, or you could say the narrator to be safe. Attacked the narrator. The narrator called Fluff Psycho Fluffball. Okay, let me improve on the handwriting for the next part. Remember, kids, write legibly and nicely, okay? So part B, the narrator was excited about the hatching. That's true. How do we know? There's a part whereby the narrator rushed home to get his family when he saw the hatching. So he rushed home to get his family when he saw the hatching. Part C, the tomcat struck Fluff before she could react. False. Why? Because Fluff was so protective with her maternal instinct that she basically struck the cat first. So Fluff had already attacked the giant wild tomcat. So over here, something that's very important when you check the passage later for your answers is your sequence of events. You need to be clear on this because it seems a bit messy and I know the passage is long, so you would just think, okay, it's a fight between two animals, but no, who struck who first is important, right? Every time you have an altercation, which means a fight between humans or animals, someone has to hit first. That's just how things progress in the order of events. In this case, we need to be clear that Fluff had already attacked the giant, or not giant, the wild tomcat, okay? And how we can be clear on that is to do this, is to reread the passage. Always read the passage twice, right? We read the questions first, so we got a bigger and better picture. Then we read the passage the first time. That's when I went through it with you guys. But after that, you should read it one more time by yourself, okay? We don't have time for me to reread that to you, but it should be something you do in your own practices, okay? And your own habits. 76, look at the table below. What do the words in the left column refer to in the passage? Write your answers in the column on the right. 76A, little fluffy bundles, line 13. So locate that, and even without looking at the passage from memory, we can also infer that it means Fluff's babies, right? Because she's a mother, what's happening in the story is that she's not giving birth, sorry, we all know hens lay eggs. She is having kids, right? So if we have little fluffy bundles in line 13, that would be her babies. I'll locate the answer in the passage later and bracket it so we can check against that too. Part B, something. That would be the giant wild tomcat, because something was sneaking towards her chicks at the barn, right? It would be the giant, So something would refer to the giant wild tomcat sneaking towards Fluff's chicks at the barn. Okay. Part C, 1. So that just means the feistiest mortal little red hen, which is one of Fluff's babies. It's referring to that particular chick. '77. The effect. Fluff's babies were safe in the pen as the stallion hated cats. And of course, for question 77, we're saying based on the passage, take the corresponding cause and effect listed in the table below. So for part A, the narrator shifted the nest to the pen. And because of that, the effect of that is that the babies were safe in the pen as the stallion hated cats. The stallion would protect against the cats and cats wouldn't dare to go there. So the cause, or what the narrator did to produce this effect, right, this eventual outcome, was to do something. And that something is the narrator shifted the nest to the pen. Okay. Part B, the narrator found Fluff bleeding. So basically how Fluff was bleeding was when she got attacked by the cat, right? So that would be the giant wild tomcat swiped Fluff with its claws. Yep, causing the bleeding. Okay, 78, almost done, guys. So which two of the following words best describe Fluff? Put a tick in the box. So the answer would be courageous and persistent, because let's do some elimination. She's not calm at all, right? She's going around attacking people, and even the narrator, when she was introduced, she's not friendly, right? She's not negligent. Negligent just means you're very careless, right? For example, I spilled water all over the floor in my house, my living room, and I don't tell my parents, okay, be careful, I spilled water, and they end up slipping and falling. That's because I'm negligent. I'm careless. Intolerable just means you can't really tolerate. But we see that she actually does begin to tolerate the narrator. So that trait wouldn't really fit her as much as the other two. She's courageous and she is persistent, especially when it comes to protecting her kids. 79. There's two things that the narrator did to care for Fluff after being injured by the tomcat. So it would be that the narrator placed Fluff in the stallion's barn, which was a safe place away from the tomcat. Right? Part B. The narrator gave Fluff a little pan of water and some grain, because that's what happened. Because the narrator, he realized Fluff was injured. So what the narrator did was took the initiative to give her a little bit of food, water, right? And that's found in the passage. We'll mark it down later. So the narrator gave Fluff a little pan of water and some grain. 80. Do you think that the narrator was attached to Fluff's chick? Give a reason to your answer. The answer is yes. You can say yes, he was, or I think that the narrator was attached to Fluff's chicks. Why? Because we noticed how the chicks eventually started following him around as though he was their mother, because their real mother was sadly no longer there. And the narrator would allow the chicks to follow him around. Okay? Awesome. So let's try and find these in the passage. You try and finalize that, we'll go through, okay? This one's for question 71. Always bracket your answers. This one. She was trying to chase every leaf out of the barn. This is number 72, as well as with the fact that she would squawk, flap her wings, and peck at me. So you have to combine that to form the answer we had. 73 would be she would squawk a warning when someone got within 5 feet. And notice here, when she attacked, it was because she wanted the narrator to follow. And this is the one for 5 feet. Previous one at number 73, how she squawked. Okay. True and false questions, not as important in the passage. This one would be for the next one at number 77A, because the narrator wanted to move the endangered chicks as well as babies, as well as what's her name, Fluff, to the barn, the stallion's barn, so that way it's safer away from the cats. And then from the overall impression, from everything happening here, overall, we know that Fluff is very brave and resilient, right? She doesn't cower down from a fight, even from someone who's threatening her, and she gave her life for her chicks. And the last part, number 80. That's how we know. The narrator became a mother hen to Fluff's brood, and they would often follow him around. Okay, I hope you guys learned something. So make sure to check your work well, and that's it. Till the next paper. You can approach me and my tutoring agency for any sort of tutor or music lesson, and I'll get the best choice tutors for you or your parent to pick. WhatsApp me now and I'll help you find some choices, okay? 8833-9784 Mark. Or if you want to get more of these recordings, we have them for English, math, and science, okay? And other exam papers. Just let us know what you need. Thank you so much, guys.